Number three, know what the posting expectation is for each site that you use. You may have heard me say before that different social media sites sort of have different expectations for how often you're posting. And for sort of the big three that I've talked about here already, for Facebook, you want to be posting at least weekly. I recommend more like daily during the weekdays anyway. Twitter, the expectation is you're posting at least daily, if not multiple times per day. Google+, I think the expectation we're starting to see again is sort of like Facebook, where it's at least weekly, but better would be every day. And know that it's going to help you with your planning and your scheduling if you know how often you're supposed to be on these services. And it's also going to help you decide whether or not these services are something that you actually can maintain well. I mean, if you're, I say this to companies, again and again, if you don't have the time to take to be on Twitter and to keep it up regularly enough, it might actually be better for you just to not be on Twitter. There's so much noise on Twitter that unless you're really in there and adding value to it, it really might just be better for you to forget about it. I would say the same thing about Google+. Facebook is really the only one where I do maintain that the companies really should be on there, unless there's some really compelling reason why you can't be. But anyway, do know the posting expectations. Know sort of what the culture is of those various sites so that you know how often you should be responding. Number four, make a schedule and then stick to it. Again, this sort of follows naturally along with number three. Know how often you are planning to post on each of these sites, and then really follow that. I have a reminder that pops up on my screen every day that tells me that, hey, it's time for you to do your a Pivot Facebook post. It's time for you to do a Pivot Twitter post, and then there are specific things that come up where I know, okay, I'm going to want to make sure that I post this on this day. It doesn't, I think too much planning in advance can wreck some of your spontaneity. I remember at a conference I spoke at, one attendee said that her boss wanted to review every Facebook post that she wrote and maybe have a couple other people review every Facebook post before it went out. I think that's sort of a death sentence for your Facebook page, because if you have too much scheduling and too much planning, it's going to lose the spontaneous flavor. It's going to lose the personality. But do have a schedule so that you at least know how often you're supposed to be posting, and so that you are actually keeping up with that. Number five, get to know status sharing apps. And so there are all kinds of applications out there that either will automatically push your updates from one service to another, or that will let you schedule posts in advance. So the ones I'm showing on the screen here, Hootsuite, Sendable, and LaterBro, are all services that allow you to schedule posts in advance if you want to, which is really useful for vacations and things like that. Then there are also apps that let you do things like every time you post a tweet, you can have that automatically appear in your Facebook application as well. I saw a help article online yesterday as I was reviewing some stuff for this webinar that was about getting it so that every time you update your Facebook page, it will also update your Google+ page. In general, in terms of best practices, I think it is okay to use these services. It's okay to have your tweets pushed to your Facebook page. I don't think that means that you want to exclusively have that be the only thing you ever post on Facebook. If all you ever post on Facebook is the tweets from your Twitter feed, then your Facebook page is not unique enough to be interesting to people, I think. So I think you want to be careful there. Speaking of being careful on that, number 6 is don't rely on those services too much. A really interesting study came out not so long ago, and you can see the results of the study here in sort of an infographic. Basically what it was saying, and this was for Facebook posts, what it was saying is that posts written directly to Facebook have a much higher rate of engagement than posts sent by these other services you can see here, Hootsuite, TweetDeck, Sendable. So people were responding to direct Facebook posts a little over 1% on average, but then with Hootsuite and on down, those numbers went down significantly. And I think somebody asked me why I thought this was happening. I think there could be a couple of reasons. I think, first of all, that that people can sometimes tell when, every time you use Hootsuite or TweetDeck to post to your Facebook page, it shows that below the status, it shows, sent 5 hours ago by Hootsuite. And so people know that that's not, as fresh of a post. They know that it's something that's scheduled, so I think it loses something there. I also think that just in general, when you've scheduled something in advance, it, by definition, is not as of the moment. It's not as timely as something that you have written right there in the moment. And so I think that's another reason why there may not be as much engagement. It's just because it's in fact just not as timely or as interesting to people. So these are just things to be aware of. I think my tips number 5 and 6 here sort of go hand in hand. These services are very helpful in terms of managing multiple company pages, and yet you do want to be a little bit wary of them and not overuse them. Number 7 is double check your notification settings. So you don't want to be in a situation where you have 5 different company pages on 5 different social media sites, and you've forgotten to set up notifications on a couple of them so that you don't see how people are interacting with that page. So just for instance, what I've shown here is on the back end of our our Pivot Facebook page. Here's my email notification set up so that I'm receiving notifications when anybody posts or comments on it. There are similar notifications that you can set up for Google Plus and for Twitter, and so you just want to make sure that you have your notification set so that somebody is receiving an email about the posts that come through on your social media sites. You want to make sure that that's happening so that you don't miss anything, so that nothing sort of gets hit under the rug, as it were. And then 8th, my last tip here is make sure there is a single point person for posting and responding. There should be a go-to person where the buck stops here sort of person for who's going to be taking the time to post on all of your social media sites and maintaining all of these pages, and who's going to be responding to any customer comments, customer complaints, anything like that. I have seen it before where a company will set up like a Facebook page and they'll have a half dozen administrators, and because there are so many administrators on the page, nobody really knows who's in charge of it, and so nobody is taking final responsibility for it. And you really don't want to be in that position, because then you'll end up not posting regularly enough with sort of the typical idea of, if it's supposed to be everybody's job, then it will end up being nobody's job. And you'll end up missing customer comments and things like that. And those are things you really want to stay on top of, again, specifically when you have multiple company pages as well. So those are the 8 sort of thoughts that I have about managing multiple company pages. There are a couple of questions that have popped up, and it looks like actually a couple of them are about the news items as well. So let me just take them here. And if you have any other questions, by all means, go ahead and mention those too. There's one question here. Would you advise to announce launches of support pages, or is it better not to draw attention to them? And this is actually specifically a B2B question, although I think it could apply to B2C as well. I guess I would think that if you have support pages out there and you are that's something that you're offering as a benefit for your customers or your clients, I do think it's probably better to go ahead and announce them. I think it's the sort of thing that people can take advantage of. It can be seen as sort of a value add for your company, and so I think that's going to be important as well. There was also a question here about will there be timeline for Facebook business pages? I sort of mentioned that briefly. That is coming soon, and in fact, I just received an email from a client earlier today saying that she had received a notice from Facebook that all companies were going to be required to move over to the timeline soon. I haven't yet heard that, but that's something that obviously will affect a lot of people, and so I will let you know about that if we find out that that is in fact the case, because that will affect anyone who has a company page. And you'll want to be ready for that. You want to make sure your timeline is stylized and ready for that when it happens. Also, there's a question here, is it okay to have multiple people ready to respond to customer or fan comments on the Facebook page, even if only one person is in charge of posting? This is in response, I guess, to my point number 8. Absolutely, I think it's fine to have multiple people responding. You know, and one question I received about this from a client was, well, how do we make sure then that everybody is responding in the same way? What happens if, you know, the way that one person responds is not the way I would have responded to a customer's comment? And I think the key there is just to know that to know that there needs to be sort of a corporate policy for how you're engaging with customers through your Facebook pages, so that anyone who is in a position of responding or posting, for that matter, sort of knows what the general gist is, knows how to handle complaints, knows what company policy is for all those kinds of things. I think it's absolutely fine to have multiple people responding to your posts, particularly if you have a good-sized company, but just make sure that everyone is trained on how to do that. And then a note here also, just to remind you, Pivot has our March Mania Picket contest that we are gearing up for right now. In case you are interested in learning more about that, we have 11 companies already signed up, and so that's something that's definitely happening. If you're interested, you can email me about that, or you can email Katie Goodell in our office, and she's katie@askpivot.com. So I think that's all I have for today. I did say that we were going to go back on a normal schedule, and that's almost true. 2 weeks from today, I'll be in a conference. So the next Straight Talk on Social Media webinar is going to be 3 weeks from today. And as I mentioned, that's going to be on Pinterest and how you get set up on Pinterest and how you use it. And I believe Dave Neustraden's next Straight Talk on Telco Marketing webinar is going to be the last Wednesday of this month, which is February 29th. Happy leap year. And so Dave will be presenting that day, I believe, but we'll let you know if that changes. Thank you so much for joining me today, everyone. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. And remember to keep your media social and your talk straight.